Now, from WYDC TV, this is Big Fox News at 10.
Tonight, New York City police investigating an attack that left a 35-year-old woman dead. Investigators say the victim, Christina Lee, was stabbed to death inside her Lower Manhattan apartment early Sunday by a man who had followed her from the street and into her building. Morgan McKay has more.
I mean, from what I saw, she had just opened her door and just stepped inside, and he just rushed inside. There's nothing that she could have done differently, and it's just horrific for the community.
It happened at around 4 in the morning on Sunday. A man who sources have identified as Ahmed Nosh followed Christina Yuna Lee into her Lower East Side apartment up to where she was living on the 6th floor. NYPD then received a 911 call from a neighbor who heard Lee screaming for help. When police arrived, the suspect had barricaded himself inside the apartment and refused to let anyone inside. When the NYPD eventually gained access, they found that Lee had been brutally stabbed repeatedly. The suspect was taken into custody and is currently being evaluated at Bellevue Hospital. The owner of the apartment building, Brian Chin, says that Lee just moved to New York City within the past year. He said her death has rocked the entire community.
We can't protect against monsters like this. No matter how much we invest, it comes down to our elected officials.
Although police are still investigating the motive for this attack, Mayor Eric Adams and U.S. Senator Kirsten Gillibrand both released statements condemning the violence that has touched the Asian American community once again. Mayor Adams, since taking office, has outlined numerous ways he plans for the city to tackle the rise in crime. But some are saying there are issues that need to be tackled immediately.
Walking from her cab to her apartment, that was it? How does this happen in New York City, the greatest city on earth? How does that happen?
Chen also blaming recent policies from the new Manhattan district attorney.
Yeah, my family, we have owned this building since the 1970s. My grandparents are Chinese immigrants that came from China that built themselves up. We built up this community. And to see it just get torn down so fast by one district attorney is just heart-wrenching. And it's a disgrace to all of us in the community.
More Democrat-led states are easing mask requirements. Governors in New York, Illinois, and Rhode Island are just the latest to ease restrictions, defying guidance from the Biden administration and the CDC. Alexandria Hoff has more from Washington.
This is a clear change in messaging, one that Democratic governors are saying has been dictated by science. But Republicans who efforted an end to mandates much earlier say this is pure politics. The wave started with easing of mask restrictions last week by Democratic governors in New Jersey, Delaware, Oregon, and Connecticut, followed by Rhode Island and Nevada.
Nevada will rescind our mask mandate, effective immediately. Masks will no longer be required in public places.
In California, New York, and Illinois, indoor mandates are set to be lifted, but not for kids in schools.
Schools need a little more time for community infection rates to drop, for our youngest learners to become vaccine eligible, and for more parents to get their kids vaccinated.
Virginia Governor Republican Glenn Youngkin has been pushing to give parents an opt-out of school mask requirements. There is not an indoor requirement in Virginia, but you'll remember just a week ago the governor was berated for not wearing one.
Read the room, buddy!
It remains to be seen if blue state governors will get the same treatment. And Republicans feel Democrats have now read the room, politically speaking, thinking of the mask-weary masses ahead of the midterms.
These Democrats saw what happened in Virginia. They saw what happened in New Jersey, where there was a wave of Republican voters because people were so fed up with the mandates.
The White House is not fed up with them, illustrating a clear party split. President Biden told NBC that the move is, quote, probably premature. In Washington, Alexandria Hoff, Fox News.
Jury deliberations resuming in Sarah Palin's libel case against the New York Times. The former Alaska governor is suing the Times for defamation over a 2017 editorial that alleged her political action committee incited a mass shooting attack that injured Arizona Congresswoman Gabby Giffords and killed 6 others. The case went to the jury on Friday. As thousands of U.S. troops are making their way to Europe, the president's national security advisor briefs Congress today over the potential for a Russian invasion of Ukraine. Now, following the meeting with Congress, we are learning that Washington will offer $1 billion in sovereign loan guarantees to Ukraine in an effort to calm concerns about a potential war. Caroline Shively reports from Washington.
As the number of Russian troops along the Ukrainian border swells well past 130,000, today Russia's foreign minister continued to claim they were simply there for training and told his boss to keep talking with the West. This while U.S. officials warn a Russian invasion of Ukraine could be imminent.
We are in the window, and an invasion could begin. A major military action could begin by Russia in Ukraine any day now.
But there are still hopes of holding off hostilities. Germany's chancellor is in Ukraine today before heading to Moscow tomorrow, talking with both presidents to try and strike a deal. Even so, Germany, the U.S., and other NATO nations are sending more troops to the region.
We've added some to that to reassure allies and to deter aggression against the NATO alliance. But there is no plan, no expectation that those troops are going to be going into Ukraine.
Some foreign policy experts warn, even if the U.S. and others are able to get Russia to stand down, this could still be a victory for President Vladimir Putin, who wants to keep Ukraine out of NATO.
They want to destabilize Ukraine and make Ukraine an inhospitable place for commerce. We're seeing capital flight already from that country. And so, again, Putin is kind of winning right now, even though he hasn't fired a shot.
Here at home, the Russia-Ukraine situation could even affect inflation. The latest data shows energy prices up 27% year over year. Those prices are expected to rise as tensions escalate. In Washington, Caroline Shively, Fox News.
Today marks 4 years since the school shooting at Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School. Various remembrances, including a reading of the names or a moment of silence, were held in several locations this morning to honor the 17 people killed at Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School in Parkland, Florida. Florida government buildings, parks, and other facilities flew their flags at half-staff, and Governor Ron DeSantis asked all Floridians to pause for a moment of silence at 3 p.m. Still ahead tonight, the busiest U.S.-Canada border crossing has reopened, but protesters say they will continue fighting for their demands, an end to COVID-19 mask and vaccine mandates.
Any unlawful activity in the area will not be tolerated, and officers will take the necessary action to keep the peace and traffic flowing.
What police officials are doing to control the ongoing protests.
Here's your local stock market update from Big Fox. Now, your Twin Tiers forecast from Big Fox.
All right, thanks again for checking in as we take a look at your local forecast. I'm meteorologist Todd Nelson, and hopefully had a nice Valentine's Day. Looking at some cooler conditions into our Tuesday, mid-month already. 6 degrees when we wake up and head out the door. Our average is 16. On sunrise, it's at 7:02, and then daytime highs on Tuesday tomorrow will actually be 10 degrees below the average of 36 with the sunset at 4:39. How about this, though? From February 19th to the 23rd, we're getting indications of warmer than average conditions close to home and throughout much of the central and eastern United States. But again, tonight will be quite chilly overnight tonight. Those clouds will actually be decreasing, and look for a near full moon. It's actually called the snow moon here in February, and typically the northern tier of the nation has quite a bit of snow on the ground. So we'll see if that gets added to here this week. I think locally, though, we'll have some rain developing Wednesday night into Thursday, and then a changeover to some light snow on Friday. But the rain could actually be a little bit heavier as this storm system pushes through. So as we take a look at the forecast overnight tonight, scattered light snow showers to the north, closer to the Great Lakes region. Might have a few light snow showers in the Finger Lakes region and a very minor coating throughout the morning hours. But again, closer to home, we'll have some sunshine mixed with clouds through midweek as temperatures start to warm up. We will definitely notice that by Wednesday, and we'll have that forecast for you in a second. Again, waking up to 6 with some partly cloudy skies in the morning. A few locations into the lower single digits, but when you factor in the wind, which won't be terribly strong, a few spots could be into the sub-zero range. Elmira, Corning, again, right around 0, and then some sub-zero stuff as you head to the north near Wayland. All right, 23 degrees in Wayland for the daytime high. 36 is our average once again, so it'll be nearly 10 degrees below that for Corning and Elmira. As we head to the east in Binghamton, we'll be at 27 with, again, some partly cloudy skies. Now, the temperatures, again, below average on Tuesday, but then by Wednesday, look at this, we get to above average levels by 10, almost 15 degrees. Those temperatures will be topping out into the 40s, but that'll come with some wind. So kind of a trade-off. Will be warmer, but it will be windier, and then even warmer here into Thursday as we see some rain develop, and some of the rain, especially to the north and west, could be quite heavy, maybe an inch plus closer to the Great Lakes region, and that's where we're getting these darker green colors. But here in the local area, Corning and Elmira, and then just to the west, we'll see how that precipitation starts to pan out. 53 degrees on Thursday, so definitely warmer, and that rain could be a little bit heavier at times, but notice we dropped down to 21 Thursday night, so Thursday night, early Friday morning, a bit of a wintry mix. Definitely cooler on Friday at 30, and then heading into the weekend, we'll see some quieter conditions with some sunshine.
A teenage Russian figure skater will be allowed to compete for an individual medal at the Beijing Games. This as an investigation continues into a failed drug test. Alex Hogan has the story.
A Russian figure skater at the center of a doping controversy will continue competing at the Winter Olympics. 15-year-old Kamila Valieva was cleared to participate in the women's single skating competition despite failing a drug test. The Court of Arbitration for Sport issuing that ruling today, saying that Valieva does not need to be suspended ahead of a full investigation. Valieva returned the positive test in December, but the results were not reported by a Swedish laboratory until February 8th. That's one day after the Russian Olympic Committee won gold in the team event. The Russian anti-doping agency suspended the 15-year-old, then lifted the ban a day later.
The usual practice is to take no more than 10 days. Failure to make the results public for practically 2 months gives rise to a lot of questions.
The International Olympic Committee announced today it will not hold a medal ceremony for the team figure skating event. Officials say they'll also skip the ceremony if Valieva finishes in the top 3 during the individual event. Valieva is a favorite to win the individual event, which begins on Tuesday.
An elementary school in Illinois is garnering serious attention after a photo surfaced of a flyer on campus advertising an after-school Satan club. Here's Lauren Green.
We're not teaching children about Satanism. They're just going to know that this is taught by Satanists.
Some are calling it spiritual warfare. The Satanic Temple has opened another after-school club, this time in an Illinois elementary school as part of its nationwide campaign to push back against a Christian club. Parents protested outside Jane Addams Elementary School in Illinois as the after-school Satan Club met there for the first time last month. The Satanic Temple, which runs the program, says students learn benevolence and empathy, critical thinking, problem-solving, and creative expression.
I'm hoping that with our presence, people can see that good people can have different perspectives, sometimes on the same mythology, but not mean any harm.
In 2001, the U.S. Supreme Court ruled religious groups could operate after-class programs in public schools, which allowed for a proliferation of the Good News Christian clubs, now about 5,000 nationwide.
We're not trying to be against anyone. We're simply trying to take the biblical good news of the gospel to the children.
As a counterbalance, the Satanic Temple said it intends to open more clubs in schools where the Christian clubs are meeting.
What's your objection to the Good News clubs?
Well, the Good News clubs, we felt, were particularly troublesome in the way that they do explicitly try to indoctrinate children. They do try to prepare the children to proselytize to others.
The Satanic Temple says it is really an atheist organization. Despite this statue depicting its leader, followers don't believe in spiritual evil or the devil, who the Bible warns is a master of lies and deception.
They're doing the work of Satan, whether they want to acknowledge it or not, because this is what Satan would do. Satan, the term itself, means evil, and this is not the influence you want to bring upon your children.
So far, the Satan Club isn't that popular. The school said 2 students from the same family attended the first meeting last month, as well as the second meeting this week. In New York, Lauren Green.
The busiest U.S.-Canada border crossing reopened Sunday, but protesters say they'll keep fighting for their demands to end COVID-19 mask and vaccine mandates. Alexis McAdams reports from Ottawa, Canada.
The busiest border crossing between the U.S. and Canada now open again after almost a week of closures prompted by COVID protests. Police making several arrests overnight, moving out the last remnants of the Freedom Convoy, blocking the Ambassador Bridge, which normally carries about 25% of all trade between the two countries. But the protests ramping up here in the capital, Ottawa. The head of the convoy saying their plan is to consolidate the efforts near Parliament Hill, the seat of the Canadian government, moving trucks out of residential areas at the request of Ottawa's mayor. And they say they'll keep fighting to end what they call restrictive mask and vaccine mandates. Meanwhile, the protest has paralyzed much of the city, and counter-protesters now starting to come out in bigger numbers. Frustrated police aren't acting and hoping local businesses can soon reopen. The convoy has 400 semi-trucks parked in front of Parliament with no sign of moving at this point. They've been threatened, though, with hefty fines and even jail time.
A recent report reveals 24 million taxpayers are still waiting on last year's refund. According to data from the Washington Post, the IRS has nearly 24 million individual and business tax returns that have not been processed and need to be manually completed. The agency reported back in December more than 11 million unprocessed reports due to the pandemic. However, numbers are now more than doubled that. The federal agency is warning returns may be delayed for 10 months or more. A recent report reveals weddings will cost couples more in 2022. The firm Wedding Report released data showing more than 2 million weddings are expected this year in the U.S. Varying reports cite industry experts saying couples should expect a 10 to 15% increase in their expenses. Suppliers are increasing the prices on couples due to the ongoing rise of essential wedding supplies. The average wedding cost will rise from $24,000 to around $27,000. Commercial fishing nets are threatening marine life around the world. But as Jackie Ibanez reports, a unique study using lighted nets is proving to save the lives of sea turtles, sharks, and more.
Every year, millions of sea turtles, stingrays, sharks, and other marine creatures are caught in the nets of commercial fishermen, resulting in them being badly hurt or killed. But new research is shedding some light on how to save these ocean dwellers and even improve the global fishing industry. Off the coast of Mexico, marine biologist Jesse Senko and his team have been hard at work, conducting experiments using fishing nets lined with special green LED lights. When comparing the lighted nets to standard ones, Senko found a huge difference in what wound up being caught. And as the study progressed, researchers also found the lights helped make fishermen's lives easier, reducing the time it took them to sort through their nets by 57% because fewer unwanted creatures were caught. Senko and his team don't have a definite answer as to why the green lights ward off vulnerable marine life, but they hope to unlock more clues during their upcoming projects in the Caribbean and North Carolina.
Congratulations, Bradley. You are an honorary LMPD officer.
We want to leave you with a smile tonight. A Louisville, Kentucky teenager with Down syndrome who became the victim of social media bullying got the surprise of his life. More than 100 Louisville first responders coming together to show support and love to 18-year-old Bradley Sago. Bradley, who wants to be a police officer in the future, recently posted pictures of himself in uniform on TikTok. The teen's mom said the comments were just hurtful. An organization called Humanizing the Badge saw the post and formulated a plan to bring Bradley and his family a little bit of joy. Thanks for joining us. Have a great night.